Fatu Balde, The Gambia. Rabha Al-Haimar, Morocco.
Niansu Win, Burma. Fazia Karim Firoz, Bangladesh.
Volia Harbunova, Belarus. Agatha Atueri, Uganda. Binafsha Yakubi, Afghanistan. Fátima Corozo, Ecuador. Fariba Baluch, Iran. Please welcome Secretary of State Antony Blinken.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the White House. To the First Lady, Dr. Biden, thank you for again opening this remarkable place for this particular celebration, but also for being such an extraordinary role model for women and girls here in our country, but also around the world, and for your sustained efforts to advance the rights and dignity of all people. So we're joined today by officials from across the United States government, each one of them a remarkable leader and role model in their own right. Samantha Power, USAID Administrator. Jen Klein, the Director of the White House Gender Policy Council. Someone who really needs no introduction, Karine Jean-Pierre, White House Press Secretary. Emily Ruiz, the White House Political Director. Dr. Geeta Rao Gupta, the Ambassador at Large for Global Women's Issues. Geeta's obviously stacked the deck here. And Desiree Cormier-Smith, the Special Representative for Racial Equity and Justice, who I'm so proud to serve alongside of at the State Department. I also want to acknowledge our team at the Bureau of Education and Cultural Affairs, led by Assistant Secretary Lee Satterfield. Thank you, Lee. They are doing so much every single day to build bridges of understanding between the United States and the world, including bringing together our awardees with U.S. public servants and advocates so that they can learn from each other and boost one another. Now, this year's International Women of Courage are simply extraordinary. They're advocating for domestic workers in Bangladesh and people with disabilities in Afghanistan. They're exposing corruption in Uganda, combating sexual harassment in Japan, standing up for the children of wartime rape in Bosnia and Herzegovina, fighting for democracy in Belarus. We're honoring a dozen women. There's one who couldn't join us today, Martha Beatriz Roque, an unyielding defender of human rights in Cuba. Cuban authorities have subjected Martha to a long campaign of detention and abuse, including prohibiting her from traveling abroad. Martha may not be able to be with us today in person, but we want her to know all of us are with her every single day. I think Martha would be the first to say that her struggle is not hers alone. Governments and societies around the world look to silence, to intimidate outspoken women through imprisonment, through harassment, through violence, through death threats, through the repression of their families and their colleagues. For these women, and so many activists like them around the world, courage is a deliberate and daily choice. Women and girls demonstrate similar bravery in places that are racked by conflict and insecurity, even as they are disproportionately harmed by that violence. We also witness the quiet daily strength of women who persist despite the obstacles to their rights, their participation, their basic chances in life, from unequal political and economic power to gender-based violence. Whether on the front lines of war or on the front lines of social change, women are often the most powerful engines for progress. The United States stands with every woman of courage, working to build greater stability, greater equality, and greater opportunity. And we are committed to knocking down the barriers that prevent women and girls from reaching their full potential alongside them. That's why championing the rights of women and girls in all of their diversity is a central part of our foreign policy. Over the past 3 years, we've put forward concrete strategies, policies, programs to support women and girls around the world. It's not simply rhetorical, it's practical, from increasing their political participation to ensuring that they're parts of things like the clean energy transition. Last year, President Biden requested a doubling of foreign aid to promote gender equity abroad, a historic $2.6 billion. Supporting women and girls is not only the right thing to do, it's the smart and necessary thing to do. And we know this in so many different ways. We've seen this. The more women serve in legislatures, the less likely countries are to actually go to war. If we were able to close the gender gap around the world in the worldwide workforce, we would add an estimated $28 trillion to the global economy. Just imagine what we could do to better societies around the world with those kind of resources. Simply put, when women do better, we all do better. As we advance the rights and dignity of women around the world, and of all people around the world, we will continue to look to learn from, to be inspired by our partners in government, the private sector, and civil society, including the women that we're celebrating here today. Now, one of our honorees, Fariba Balouch, has been subjected to persistent threats from Iranian security forces, but that has not deterred her. She put it this way: "This is my path. This is my responsibility. I refuse to be silenced." That insistence that determination to speak up, to speak out, to take action, to refuse the status quo, that's reflected in all of the extraordinary women that we recognize today. And it's exhibited every day as well by the woman that I now have the great privilege to introduce, the First Lady of the United States, Dr. Jill Biden.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Please be seated. Thank you, Secretary Blinken. Tony, your steady presence, your vision, your character make you an incredible Secretary of State. Thank you for everything you do. And yes. And it's no accident that I think they seated you in front of Evan so you can see one another. And second gentleman, Emhop, Doug, you show us how important it is to have men join this fight. You're an advocate for women and girls, helping to lift up voices that need to be heard. And isn't he the best second gentleman ever? And I, too, would like to say thank you to Jen Klein and her team at the White House, the Gender Policy Council, for the first of its kind, for their work advancing the rights of women and girls around the world. And my gratitude to the State Department's Office of Global Women's Issues, led by Ambassador Gupta, for their partnership. And a special welcome to the members of the Washington Diplomatic Corps. And we have former Secretary Albright's family with us. Alice, thank you for carrying forward her legacy. Alice, will you stand? There is a kind of silence that hangs in the air around us, even in a crowded room. It sits beneath the ordinary, the blurs of our conversations, between the rumble of car engines and the pounding of rain. It's the silence of children lost to war and violence, of men who no longer speak of their dreams because they can't picture what's ahead, of women whose words are smothered by communities and governments who wish to hold them back, who have wounds and spirits it will take time to mend, who speak but go unheard. It's the hush that falls when hope is so hard to find, under an authoritative thumb when rights slip away. The silence that seems to swallow cries for justice, for freedom, for equality. The women on this stage have refused to bend to that silence. You've spoken out for yourselves and for others in the face of fear and risk, and those who have tried to steal your voices away. As I read your stories, I was struck by that inner strength that each of you hold, a strength that you held on to even as others hoped to censor you, hoped you would stay quiet, that helped you raise your voices even when you were afraid, that helps you shout even when you're tired and say, "We cannot wait. We deserve more now." Because change never happens on its own. There is power in the community of women, in this community. Power when our voices come together to hold each other up, even when we want to crumble, to heal one another, and to share that inner strength, to create lasting change. You're giving others opportunities greater than what you had, standing behind the next generation of courageous women so the confidence of girlhood can become the courage of womanhood. So your daughters and nieces and all the girls coming after never have to worry if their voices are too loud, never have to fear if their bodies won't be their own, never have to shrink so that their brothers can swell. Because of you, they will fill that silence with their ideas and with their dreams. They will reach for the breadth of the world with joy that never extinguishes, boldness that never wavers, determination that only grows. Together, we will keep chipping away at the quiet that haunts our world. And while there may be those who wish for us to fall silent, we will never fall, because the steepness of the struggle will not stop our ascent. That's why we lift you up today, so your great acts of courage can inspire others to perform their own, big and small. Your voices carry across oceans and continents, calling to the women and girls who need to hear your stories. and to the men and the boys who need to hear them too. It's a song of the future reverberating through us, so we too can speak out and be the seekers of justice, the defenders of freedom, because our chorus can topple tyrants and demagogues and shatter oppression. Because your fight is all our fight, and we are stronger than any force that hopes to silence us. Thank you.
Being scared and doing your job anyway. Courage means that I am Benafsha Yacobi. I read for second previous means to win.
Fátima Corozo.
Please welcome White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre.
It takes courage to speak out. Let me say that one more time. It takes courage to speak out. The women on the stage know this. My parents, who grew up in Haiti under a dictatorship, knew this. They saw powerful people attacking the press, arresting activists, and cracking down on free speech. That's why they moved to the United States, seeking freedom and democracy. Because of what they went through, I have spent my career speaking out, advocating for policies to protect those who are marginalized, fighting for the freedoms we all deserve. It is my privilege of my life to serve by speaking out as White House Press Secretary on behalf of President Joe Biden. The women we honor today spoke out, obviously, and we're so proud of them. In the face of violence, oppression, and fear, they stood strong. They rose up against shame, against set ways of thinking, against harassment, against abuse. And in them, we see the power our words can have and why so many wish to stop their tide. Because their words have inspired thousands of women, changed laws and practices, and made life better for the next generation. With that, I think we're going to see a video, I hope.
Did you just ad-lib that?
Maybe not. Okay. It's coming. It's coming. So, Aina Yusik founded the Forgotten Children of War Association to advocate for the rights of children born of rape during war. Ms. Yusik helped pass a law, the first of its kind in the world, to give legal rights to children born of wartime sexual violence and help them emerge from the shadows. Oh, there you go. At the age of 11, Rina Goinoi and her family were victims of the tragic triple disaster in Japan, the tsunami, earthquake, and nuclear accident. When a woman Japan Self-Defense Force officer assisted her family during the evacuation, Ms. Goinoi was inspired to join the force. After facing sexual harassment and abuse there, Ms. Goinoi shared her story and empowered more than 1,000 other women to come forward, leading the force to change its ways. A survivor of female, oh, I'm so sorry. Let me give that to you. I went too fast there, I apologize. A survivor of female genital mutilation, or FGM, Fatou Balde tirelessly educates people in Gambia about the dangers of FGM in a country where 75% of women have endured some form of it despite an existing ban. Her proudest achievement, saving her own 11-year-old niece from FGM and breaking the cycle of violence in her own family. In Morocco, Rabah al-Haimar fought to spare her daughter a life of marginalization and discrimination as a child without legal documentation. She bravely shared her story in a groundbreaking documentary to help break the stigma facing children like hers. Ms. al-Haimar hopes her efforts will protect the rights of all women and children and empower them as full and equal citizens. Okay, thanks everybody.
Please welcome Special Representative for Racial Equity and Justice, Desiree Cormier-Smith.
We are all inextricably linked in a network of humanity. This is the core of the African concept of Ubuntu. I am because you are. That means that when legal systems fail to protect some, it has implications for us all. But it takes true courage to seek justice when powerful forces prevail. The women we honor today are the embodiment of such courage. They are fearless advocates for laws that protect all people without regard to one's gender, background, or beliefs. They refuse to stay silent in the face of injustice. They strive to transform broken systems that persecute the oppressed and fail to live up to the promise of equality, fairness, and humanity for every citizen. Why do they do it, even in the face of great risk to themselves and their families? Because they understand Ubuntu. Or, as the great Black feminist, professor, and poet Audre Lorde put it, quote, "I am not free while any woman is unfree, even when her shackles are very different from my own," end quote. The women we honor today give their communities hope and their stories have the power to inspire others around the world to follow their lead. Without their perspectives and inclusion, without the participation of all women in all their diversity for that matter, there can be no true justice. The very survival of our network of humanity relies on such heroes, their unwavering belief in the principle of Ubuntu, and their fearless commitment to making this world a better place for us all. We are going to skip the video, and now Dr. Biden and Secretary Blinken will present the awards. Oh,
that needs to be presented.
Maybe we won't skip the video.
My name is Ms. Wynn. I'm a lawyer from Myanmar. Over the past 10 years, I've represented hundreds of individuals in the criminal justice system. I'm committed to ensure the protection of legal rights,
especially to the marginalized community. Individual rights has been limited, making my work more important than ever. I'm Positive Firoz, a senior advocate at the Supreme Court of Bangladesh. I'm a lawyer and at the same time I'm a legal activist also. Mostly my work focuses on the legal advocacy for reforming discriminatory laws and equality for society. I take pride in saying that the famous guideline on the sexual harassment prevention committee in workplace and education institution endorsed by the Honorable High Court of Bangladesh is one of the major accomplishments in my career.
Я белоруска, которая потеряла свой дом. Как и многие другие, я вынуждена была покинуть Беларусь, спасаясь от уголовного преследования. Практически 20 лет я жила, работала в Беларуси, помогала женщинам, пострадавшим от насилия, и их детям, открывала убежище, курсы женской самообороны, обучала милицию, врачей, педагогов и психологов, как помогать пострадавшим. И при этом я сама стала пострадавшей. Мы знали, что не будет легкого и быстрого результата, поэтому каждый день своей жизни я буду продолжать бороться за себя, за свою дочь и за свою страну.
My name is Agatha Taire, and I am an international woman of courage. People get it wrong when
They meet me and say, why are you reckless? Why don't you fear? Why aren't you afraid for your life, for your children that you might leave behind? But courage means that you put what you might achieve by speaking up above any fear. You put a better life for you, for your children, for the society and other people that are vulnerable, who are really the most people that touch my heart in this country. You put that above any fear. For Uganda, it's for encouraging other people to join. The more, the better. Even if you are courageous, you cannot change things alone.
And now, Dr. Biden and Secretary Blinken will present the awards. First, Bangladeshi Supreme Court advocate Fauzia Karim Firoz is a fighter for the rights of victims of exploitation and marginalization. As chairperson of the Foundation for Law and Development, Ms. Firoz helped win a landmark ruling to protect the rights of domestic workers. She has helped thousands of garment workers and sexual harassment survivors defend their rights. Minzu Win, a veteran criminal defense lawyer, is a champion for the rights of marginalized people across Burma. In addition to representing hundreds of clients pro bono, she also leads a legal aid team focused on training lawyers to help those most in need. Congratulations. Journalist, lawyer, and social justice activist Agatha Atuhaire has brought light to sexual harassment, abuses of power, and violations of human rights in Uganda. At great personal risk, Ms. Atuhaire seeks to hold leaders accountable and has led to changes in the Ugandan Ministry of Health and Parliament. Volya Harbonova was imprisoned by the Lukashenko regime after organizing women's marches. While in prison, she suffered psychological torture and threats of death. Ms. Harbonova now bravely advocates for the release of political prisoners and provides support to their families as a member of the Belarusian democratic movement in exile. Please join me once more in congratulating these brave women.
Please welcome USAID Administrator Samantha Power.
Hello, everyone. It has always taken bravery and stubbornness to stand up for human rights. But today, the threats that human rights activists and defenders face, from threats to their families, to legal retribution, to imprisonment and outright violence at the hands of those who would prefer to see them silenced, those threats are grave, and sadly, they are growing. In 2022, more than 400 human rights defenders were murdered, the highest number ever recorded in a single year. I am in awe of the women we are honoring today for their courage. They refuse to back down because of a shared conviction captured by Fátima Corozo, one of the women we are recognizing today. As she puts it, courage, even in the face of danger and fear, is the driving force to achieve positive change. The women we are honoring live this conviction every minute of every day. They have been unjustly imprisoned. They have been driven from their homes or trapped inside their homes. They have seen their families and their colleagues attacked, or they have received death threats and been assaulted themselves. But they do not relent. They go on fighting. They fight for the rights of political prisoners. They organize movements to bring services to marginalized communities. They publish articles, they host rallies, and they call out injustice wherever they can. Even in the most dangerous places, against all odds, they are continuing their work, demonstrating incredible, inspiring courage, and putting their lives on the line to defend human rights. Let us pause now for a video.
As a person who is advocating for the rights of people with disability and as a human rights defender, I will work for all Afghan women and I will dedicate all my life for my goal. I am Benafsha Yaqoubi, a human rights and people with disability rights activist from Afghanistan. We tried to work for people with disability inside the country. We established an organization named Rahyab. While I was in Iran, I faced with lots of discrimination. I went to an NGO. He helped me as a human being, not as a person who is not from Iran or who is this or who is that. So at that time, I made my decision. If I go back to my country, I will make such an NGO or organization to work for those people who are more marginalized.
Soy Fátima Corozo, tengo 13 años como docente y soy líder del sector de la isla Luis Vargas Torre. El sector era de preocupación por falta de apoyo social. Me dije, quiero hacer algo. Fue buscar estrategias, buscar aliados para que ayudaran a dar diferentes tipos de capacitaciones. Los resultados han sido favorables. Se ha fortalecido el empoderamiento de la mujer, la igualdad de género, también para realizar emprendimientos. Y estos niños, estas madres, estos jóvenes son útiles en la sociedad.
Mi nombre es Martha Beatriz Roque Cabello. Soy licenciada en Economía Estoy dedicada a los presos políticos y a poder hacer visible la situación que tienen los presos políticos y sus familiares. Es una cantidad de información que oculta la dictadura y que nosotros ponemos en la palestra pública para que se sepa lo que está sucediendo de verdad en las prisiones. Yo creo que lo más importante que yo he hecho ha sido escribir La Patria de Dios. Nosotros en este pequeño argumento dimos a conocer al mundo lo que estaba pasando en Cuba. Yo pienso que el objetivo de mi vida, que era traer la democracia a Cuba, no lo he conseguido y tengo que seguir haciéndolo hasta que lo pueda conseguir o hasta que mi persona pueda seguirlo haciendo.
Here not just the Fariba Baluch. I think I'm here as all the brave women of Baluchistan and Iran. In Baluchistan, I was a teacher and a women rights activist. After I came in UK, I became as a human rights activist as well. I wanted you speak about us. I wanted you study about us. I wanted you seeing us as a humans fighting for the basic right.
فردای آزادی روز دادخواهی که فرا برسد.
That's all I want to do. This.
Now, Dr. Biden and Secretary Blinken will present the awards. Banafsha Yacoubi has dedicated her life to defending the rights of women and girls in Afghanistan. A former attorney and member of the Afghanistan Independent Human Rights Commission, she has helped women escape violence and visually impaired children attend school. Today, she continues to fight for the future of Afghanistan, one that respects human rights, one that respects human dignity. Born in Isla Luis Vargas Torres, one of the most violent enclaves within Esmeraldas, Ecuador, Fátima Corozo has put her life on the line to draw hundreds of young people away from rising gang violence and help get them the education and job opportunities that they need to build the futures they want for themselves. Martha Beatriz Roque Cabello was the only woman among 75 people imprisoned during the Black Spring, Cuba's crackdown on dissidents 2 decades ago. Martha was jailed for her activism. After her release, she continued to fight for the rights of political prisoners, documenting fraudulent court hearings and supporting activists and their families. Unfortunately, as the Secretary relayed, the Cuban government is preventing Ms. Roque Cabello from leaving the country, so she is not here to accept the award, but let us give her a heartfelt round of applause. As a result of Fariba Baluch's outspoken activism for the rights of women and systematically oppressed ethnic minorities in Iran's poorest province of Sistan and Baluchistan, Iranian authorities have threatened her life. After she escaped to London, they detained her son and brother in a further attempt to intimidate her. Yet Ms. Baluch believes the only way forward is resistance, and she continues to advocate for marginalized communities in Iran, refusing to be silenced. Congratulations to all of our awardees. Thank you so much.
Please welcome White House Director of Political Strategy and Outreach, Emmy Ruiz.
It's an honor to be here with all of you and to present this important award. This is the second year in which we've presented this group award, and we're so grateful to have Secretary Albright's family today as we honor her tremendous legacy. This year, we're recognizing 9 brave women from Nicaragua who were held as political prisoners. Nicaragua's current leaders have systematically undermined democracy and human rights. This regime is responsible for jailing members of the media, cracking down on civil society, and arresting people for exercising their basic rights. The Nicaraguan women that we honor today are human rights defenders, journalists, political activists, and women's rights activists, all fighting tirelessly and at great personal risk against corruption, repression, discrimination, harassment, and dignity. These courageous women were imprisoned by the Ortega regime and then exiled and stripped of their citizenship, branded as traitors, made stateless and unable to return to their homes and families. And yet, they remain undeterred and unbroken. They continue their brave fight for a better life and for a better future for all women and men in Nicaragua. And although they could not be present with us today, we honor them. There's also a video. Hold on.
Please welcome 2024 International Women of Courage awardee, Fatu Balde.
First Lady, Dr. Jill Biden, Secretary of State, Mr. Antony Blinken, staff of the State Department, distinguished guests, members of the press, good morning to you all. First Lady and Secretary of State, my fellow awardees and I are grateful to you for recognizing our work with this prestigious award. We are deeply honored. Anytime you honor a woman of courage, you are sending a powerful message to millions of young girls and women that being courageous and speaking up against injustice is not just only in order, but also honorable. It is indeed a great honor and privilege to be in the company of women from around the globe who have demonstrated outstanding courage and leadership in advocating for peace, justice, human rights, gender equity, and equality, often at great risk and sacrifice. Please join me in giving a big round of applause to my fellow awardees of the International Women's Day. As a young girl growing up, I was taught by society to accept without questioning the norms and practices that are harmful to women, such as female genital mutilation, also known as FGM. At the age of 8, I was subjected to female genital mutilation, a practice which, according to the World Health Organization, estimates has affected over 200 million women and girls alive today around the world.
The World Health Organization defines FGM as a procedure that involves part or total removal of the external female genitalia or other forms of injury to the female genital organs for no medical reasons. In the Gambia, where the practice affects over 75% of women and girls, it is mostly carried out on young girls aged between infancy and 10, without anesthetic, by medically untrained elderly women from the community who use the same unsterile equipment such as razor blades and knives to mutilate several girls at the same time. Evidence across the world has proven that female genital mutilation causes emotional and physical health problems such as severe bleeding, problems urinating, recurrent infections, childbirth complications, and an increased risk to newborn deaths. Like my fellow awardees who had a moment of awakening that inspired their work, I too had mine during my postgraduate studies when I began to understand the immense risk that FGM poses to women and girls. The more I tried to understand the rationale for FGM, the more I realized that it is deeply rooted in patriarchy, and the fight to end it must therefore be linked to the broader struggles for gender equity and equality. That struggle is a common denominator for all the women of courage presented here today. I founded Women in Liberation and Leadership, WILL, to contribute to the empowerment and liberation of women from the shackles of gender injustice and nurture confident women leaders through interactive exchanges and trainings. My team and I work across the country engaging communities in dialogues and challenging harmful gender norms and practices. We also documented women's experiences of rape, murder, and forced labor during Gambia's 22 years of dictatorship. These findings were essential to the Gambia's Truth, Reconciliation, and Reparations Commission's final report. Unfortunately, as the Gambia strives to rebuild strong institutions and legal reforms after the dictatorship, we are witnessing a regression in the protection of women's rights. As I speak to you, a bill has been introduced at the Gambia National Assembly today to revoke the law that bans female genital mutilation in the Gambia. Sadly, the debate will mainly be among men, as there are only 3 elected female parliamentarians out of a total of 53. Without adequate representation of women in decision-making, issues affecting women and their children will continue to be decided by men. Eliminating FGM in 2030 is a specific target of the Global United Nations Sustainable Development Goal 5. Yet, in 2024 alone, there are 4.4 million girls at risk of female genital mutilation globally. Repealing the law in the Gambia will set a bad precedent in the struggle to eliminate FGM globally. We simply cannot continue to use culture and tradition as an excuse for violating women's and girls' bodies anywhere. My proudest achievement is saving my 11-year-old niece from FGM and breaking the circle of injustice in my own family. Female genital mutilation can be ended in a generation. It can be done if we all stand up against the practice. To my fellow awardees, as we live today, decorated as International Women of Courage, let our courage continue to inspire generations of women and girls around the world. A quote from Maya Angelou: "Each time a woman stands up for herself, without knowing it, possibly without claiming it, she stands up for all women." On that note, I hope we all continue to stand up, speak up, and act for all women.
welcome U.S. Ambassador at Large for Global Women's Issues, Geeta Rao Gupta.
Thank you, Fatu, so much for those very inspiring remarks on behalf of the 2024 International Women of Courage. The strength, the passion, the fortitude you speak with are emblematic of exactly what we are here to celebrate today. I'm personally so honored to be here, surrounded by so many of the women's equality champions, both here on the stage and in the audience. Last year, I was in the audience, sitting right there, in awe of the incredible women the International Women of Courage Award celebrates. I was awaiting confirmation as an ambassador at large for global women's issues at the time, and I knew then and there that the International Women of Courage Award was more than just a celebration of excellence. It is a powerful tool for change. For 18 years, the award has played a critical role in highlighting the importance of promoting gender equity and equality and the rights and empowerment of women and girls, which is the cornerstone of US foreign policy and assistance. Today serves as a recommitment on the part of the US government to supporting and advancing women leaders and gender equality globally. We promote gender equality and women's empowerment because it is the right thing to do, and because it is an investment with a high rate of return for all. It is not an expenditure, it is an investment. As the late former Secretary of State Madeleine Albright once said, when women are empowered to make decisions, society benefits. Women leaders, including those who are on stage with me, are doing the difficult, often thankless work that is essential to our collective goal of building stability, equality, and prosperity for all. We're grateful to have the opportunity today to recognize how critical your work is and to add our thanks to all your courage and fortitude. With today's celebration, the 2024 International Women of Courage have joined a cohort of more than 190 women from 90 countries who are championing issues of justice, equity, peace, prosperity, inclusion, and so much more. And today is just the beginning. While in the United States, the 2024 International Women of Courage will participate in several high-level policy meetings, public speaking events, and exchanges with civil society organizations, academic institutions, and the private sector. Next week, they'll travel to Los Angeles, California, to meet and work with more American counterparts. We hope the connections they will make here in Washington and out there in LA will expand their networks and strengthen their resolve to continue their critical work. I want to close by thanking both First Lady Dr. Jill Biden and Secretary of State Antony Blinken for their continued and long-standing championship of gender equity and equality. I'm so encouraged by today's celebration, and I look forward to working with each and every one of you to advance this critical work. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for your commitment to this issue, and thank you to all of our International Women of Courage. Thank you.
Please remain in your seats as our speakers depart.